Hello, Assalamu alaikum, everybody. Hope you're all safe, sound, and healthy. And today we are going to talk about something that is very important. It may seem very trivial, but it's actually very important, especially in our day to day lives. And it also helps you understand the kind of people that you yourselves are, or we ourselves are, and the kind of people that we have around us, for example. And it actually, if you remember recently, there was this TikTok trend going on where there were these group of girls that thought that it was worth bragging about on how they would leave out that one friend that actually joined them. There's always that one friend who introduces a new girl to her whole group of friends, and then they suddenly decide now to band together, and suddenly she finds that she's not a part of the group anymore, right? And the fact that this trend was going on, I could see that there are many people who actually did not like it. It left a bad taste in their mouth, and for good reason, because I think anybody with the sane mind, or even half a sane mind, would realize that, hang on, excuse me, the one person that actually got you people together, the person that introduced you people together, that one mutual friend, this is how you treat that person? Wow. You know what? You're not even worth. You're not even worth knowing. Well, I guess it's good riddance to bad rubbish then. So people actually even commented and did even, quite a number of speeches on this very nasty trend. And it's actually something that I also touched a very long time ago, I think, in one of my podcasts. I'm not sure if I actually talked about it properly, but this is something that I have talked about every now and then in real life with people when I give them, when I try to make them understand the importance of how, when you introduce a new person to a group of friends of yours who you've known for years, you're like, besties or whatever, or you're like this whole group of very, very old friends together. And you, with that trust, with that faith in your friendship, and, with that kindness and generosity, you introduce a new friend into that group, and you're hoping that, okay, you could just continue to be one big group of very good friends, only to find that that new friend decides that, oh, so, as a thank you for introducing her to your friends, what she's going to do is she's going to now bitch about you with your friends, and then they would all basically blend and become better friends, and you'll find that you're suddenly not a part of the group anymore. And that they're enjoying themselves and having activities without you. Well, yeah, I have seen that happen to people I know around me. Well, to be honest, I am the kind of person which, as I said, I am psychologically very, 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 very. Even if I like to say so myself now, I guess that's the only way to describe myself, is I'm very evolved. Okay, I do tend to read people years before they can read themselves, and I do tend to read the situation also. So and somehow, because as I said, I am the kind of person who thinks very long term, very, 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 very long term. You have no idea. For me, long term means thinking all the way to my death and the hereafter. And to me, short term is thinking next 10 years, next 20 years. Okay, this is how long term I think. So believe me when I tell you that I instinctively think very long term, even if I do the smallest of acts in my life, such as introducing two people to each other. Which is why I think my friends, if anything else, they would have the one complaint about me, is that you introduce us to each other and then suddenly you're nowhere to be found. Yeah, I make myself scarce. Somehow I just know it, that when I introduce two people together or two groups together, to do business, for example, or two friends together to become, to just widen the circle of friends, or to have mutual friends or whatever, I automatically I just distance myself from the whole group and I become invisible. But I think I've been very lucky, because there is always that one friend, one of my older friends, in each case, that one friend that I've introduced to the other friend and then I've backed off, that one friend always tries to find me, and then they sit and complain to me about how it is that I've, ditched them. And that why they can't find me, and why am I making myself scarce, and where am I? And so yes, I think that makes me even more confident about my friendships with the, I mean, as in that, yes, I know I know good people, and I know how to choose good people, and I know how to have good people in my life. Because believe me, we normally don't have good people in our lives. So I think we're very, very lucky if we do have those few good people. So yeah, my whole life, I've never ever made groups and gangs of friends. I've always had one or two friends. And as I said, even if I end up having only two friends, I will introduce them to each other and then I'll just automatically back off. I'll just disappear. And one of them will always be with me, or sometimes even both of them. I I still am friends with my school friends, and I introduce them all to each other, and they're all very, very actively in touch with each other. And I'm the only one who has deliberately made myself completely scarce. And every now and then, it's like, suddenly they just remember to reach out, and all three of them in their own way and in their own different time frames have reached out to me. Yes, but the thing is, because you see, as I said, I think long term, and to me in this world also, because I know this world is not forever, it's not eternal, we're not immortals, everything's going to finish, everything's going to die, so nothing really matters enough for you to do your head over, or to do your head in over. So yeah, that's why even when my friends meet me after 20 odd years, 10 years, 15 years, we meet as if we never left, because I'm not the type that I would have expectations from others, really. And I'm very happy to see that my old friends, the oldest of my friends who I've known since school, they also are not the type who would sit and complain, as to why I haven't been there or this or that. Whenever we meet with love, we meet with sincerity, and we meet as if we just met yesterday and left off, seriously. And that is what we like about our friendship, to be honest. And that is what we like about our friendship with each other, is that we don't have these kind of expectations. And that is the kind of person I am, as it is. So yeah, but when I look at other people that I know, and I see how they have these friends that they have had for years and years and years, and they're all in perfect harmony and all, and then they make the mistake. To me, I would say they make the mistake, because as I said, if you're not the type like me to automatically back off after introducing two people to each other, then it is a mistake if you're thinking that you can introduce a new person to your gang of friends, and then that person is not going to try and bite you in the ass. Yeah, because that happens more often than not. And I see that those people struggle with the hurt, because their own old friends, one way or the other, end up backbiting or bitching about them with the new friends. Now, the old friends obviously do not have that in mind, that they're backbiting or bitching. They're thinking that, oh, the new friend is part of us. We're now all, one big group of friends. And they talk to them as with a clear heart and a clear mind. But that new friend, she takes that bitching to the next level. But as I said, another funny thing that does happen when you endure such things, although I am actually advising them now not to endure such things, because I think that there is a limit also, especially when it happens a bit too frequently, then there is a limit. And it's time that you take your old friend aside and have a good talk with them, and tell them what you think about what they're doing and how you feel about it. So, in a nice way, but still, you're old friends. You should be able to talk about it. So, yeah, but my message to these new people in town who come, and then you introduce them to your friends, and you introduce them to your, all the different groups that you have, and and everybody's friendly to them again because of you. So you're the common factor here. So it's because of you, because of their friendship with you, that they're being nice to that person, that new person. And then that new person turns around and decides that, oh, you know what? I think I can become more friendly and fit in with all of them by bitching about this very person that introduced me to all her friends. And as I said, the funny thing here in such cases is that for some time those friends are going to ignore what you're, most of them, if they're mature adults, then the first reaction is that they're going to ignore whatever it is that you're saying about the mutual friend. And then the second reaction is that one or two may actually just have a conversation with you, not even thinking that you have an ulterior motive, maybe but the seed begins to set in, and then they might distance themselves from that mutual friend for some time until they realize, after years, it usually takes years for fools to realize what fools they've been. And then when a year or two, or sometimes 5 or 6 years have passed, and they realize that that you've been silent this whole time, and you've just distanced yourself away while they've been bitching about you with this new friend, and they realize that this new friend actually has caused a rift, and then they reach out back to you, the mutual friend, you, the old friend, and they reach out back to you and they're like, where have you been, and this and that, hoping to just cement things over as if nothing happened. So things are left unsaid, and it's pretended as if it's water under the bridge. But that new friend who, to blend in, started bitching about the mutual friend and got all the friendships that she wanted, now she is on the outside without even knowing, or he, but it's usually a she thing. You find very less males doing such a thing. It's mostly because I guess most males are of the same sort of a psychological capacity that I am, where they can't be bothered. Yeah, I think in that way you can say that that is the kind of thing that you can, yeah, you could say that they are basically at that place, not for the reasons that I am at that place, I guess, but it's just that psychologically they are at that place where they think in that way, like how I think, and that is that I can't be bothered. Okay, so okay, I've introduced two friends together. They can chill, they can hang out, they can do whatever the frack it is that they want to, and I can't be bothered, and I don't always have to be in between them and have a whole pack moving around. I've got my own life too, so it's that kind of thing. So yeah, guys usually, but it's not that they don't feel it, especially if you're at a young vulnerable age. Then yes, you do feel it. When you grow older, you're like, frack it, can't be bothered. So in my case, young age or old, teenage or vulnerable, I could never be bothered. So yeah, there is yeah, this thing that is going on, and as I said, this trend. Many people commented on it, and not in a good way. Many people commented on those TikTok videos as well, and they had nothing good to say about it, because, as I said, it is not something that you should brag about. This is not something, and again, don't think that nobody knows that who's the, because I mean, you're having 20 years of friendship, for example, and this new person comes in and joins your group, and then suddenly there is a sort of a hidden rift. It's not an open rift. It's not like you're fighting each other or anything. It's just that you start distancing yourself from that very person that introduced you all to each other. And it's not that you don't know, or that person doesn't know what's going on. Everybody can see what's going on, right? But as I said, things happen, and then at the end of the day, the same person that caused that rift is now out, you know. So that also happens. So I really don't understand what kind of an inferiority complex these kind of women have, because I've seen women of very like aged women, like well into their 60s and all. I've seen them do that. And the first thing that I've seen girls do that. I've seen as teenagers, and I've seen them do it as 20, 30 odd something, and I've seen them do it as grown ass women in their 50s, 60s, 70s. And I can never understand that what is the inferiority complex that they're indulging in? What is that insecurity that they have in them, that a person out of his kindness and generosity is introducing you to their friends, their whole group of friends, and this is how you repay that person, by deciding that, oh, okay, I need to blend into this group and show that I'm ready to participate in all. And what better way than to bitch about the same person that put me in this group, that introduced me to her friends. So yeah. And another thing you will find two qualities in such people. Not only do they bitch about the mutual friend, they also try to start acting as a dominating factor. Like, for example, if there's a they will suddenly if there's a get together that the group always has once a week and all, then they will suddenly say, okay, you know what, we should do this, we should do this, we should do this, we should do. And I think, again, it's the generosity and kindness of all the others, that they do not want the new person to feel that she's not welcome. So they allow her to, they're like, okay, yeah, okay, you do it how you want, and okay, we'll listen to you. But then that person kind of runs away with it. So then that person now becomes the person who's always commanding everybody that, oh, let's do this, let's do this, let's do this, and let's do it this way, and you do it that way, and you do it that way, and all the time, and backstabbing. that one mutual friend while they're at it. So, yeah, as I said, if you're a mature um, lady, a grown ass woman, then the most likely the friends, again, so that they do not want any resentment, or they don't want any fights or arguments and anything, so they just quietly endure it. And they keep silent. Everybody keeps silent, and they're like, okay, let's just forget it. Let's just let it be, let it happen. But then at one point, as I said, that is actually why. Then at one point, they will all suddenly start distancing themselves from this new person. It may take years, it may take months, it may take, any time, any length of time. And then they're thinking that, what, we're more comfortable off with that friend who introduced us to this new person. And we were better off before this person came. So that does happen. Now, another thing that I would like to talk about is the fact, which I absolutely, I think I've actually talked about this once, just in passing, where I once said that, there was a friend of mine who, a very good friend of mine, who realized from I mean, he was so, he was so in tune with my micro expressions that, he knew from the moment that, that he gave me a birthday gift or something, that, he's like, you don't like taking gifts, do you? I've noticed that whenever somebody gives you something, you don't look happy. And I was like, I was surprised, because yes, I mean, it's not that I'm not happy, but yes, I am not happy because I like to give more than take. And the worst thing that this is a problem that I have, I guess. And with, by the way, I've been proven right on at least 90% of the occasions. I've been proven right in my life with regards to this. And this is why it has become more and more of a principle of mine. I do not like to take things from people, because I do not like people thinking that they can somehow, you know, make me feel that they've given me something, that they would want to make me feel inferior in any way. Because, yeah, believe it or not, people do that. For example, when I have this thing that when I give things to people, I literally have programmed my mind to forget it, especially when I'm in front of that person. I can remember the things that I've given that person when I'm alone in the middle of the night, when I'm thinking things, when I'm reflecting, fine. But I have commanded and trained my mind that if I'm in front of any person to whom I've given something, I should completely forget it. And that is exactly what I do. Yes, believe it or not. When I've given somebody something, I completely throw it out of my mind. I throw it out of my memory, because to me, I think when you've given something to somebody, it's theirs. It's now theirs, and now you have no connection with it whatsoever, and you need to forget about it. That's how I believe. Because again, as I said, don't teach me about Islamic teachings if you don't want me to practice it. And if you don't have a problem with me practicing it, you shouldn't have told me that this is how it should be. This is that hypocrisy that I talked about in my previous podcast, which I really, really hate. That when you're taught to that this is what Islam is, and this is what God is, and this is what Satan is, and this is what the Quran says, and these are the rules, and these are the regulations, and this is what is good, and this is what is bad. And then when that person tries to put it in their real life, then everybody has a problem saying, "Oh, but these are just in the books." Then don't teach us whatever is in the books. Teach us then what you want us to do in real life, you know? So, yeah, okay, because I am inherently a believer, because I have been taught to believe in God. And so, if I'm believing in Islam, whether I like things about it or not, I have no choice but to believe in the whole religion. I can't just pick and choose, whatever I like. Pick what I like and throw whatever I don't like and say, oh, this doesn't. Listen, it's a whole code, okay? It's a whole code of, if I have a problem with it, I should leave it, okay? Or I should damn well accept the whole thing. And that is what I always have a problem with other people too, as I keep on saying, is that if you believe in Islam, believe in it 100% or leave it. Don't just pick and choose like that to whatever is to your advantage. Don't do that. So, yeah, I mean, even in Islam, it is this thing that when you've given something to somebody, forget about it. Don't ever remind that person that you've given that person somebody. And don't ever make them feel as if they are suddenly, as if they owe you something now. And so the best thing is that, as the prophet said, peace be upon him, that a Muslim is he who, when he gives with the right hand, even the left hand doesn't know. Yeah, that's what it means. It means once you've given it, just dump it out of your mind now. That's it. It's over. It's it. And also, I believe, as I said, is that when you've given something to somebody, it's now theirs, right? It doesn't matter that you gave it to them. The point is, it is theirs. That's the whole point of you giving it to them, is now it's theirs. They possess it, they own it. So I have a huge problem with people who give things, especially, even that is why I attack parents too a lot, especially Asian parents, which, as I said, they may have become Muslims, but they still have that Hindu Buddhist thing in them, that Hindu kira in them, where they think that they own their kids and they possess their kids. And so, they have to constantly remind them and berate them about how much they have spent on them and how much they give them and how much they're doing for them, and that is not allowed in Islam. That is why there is also a saying, in our country, where we say that when man gives, he will never let you forget. But when God gives, he gives you the earth and he never even reminds you. So yeah, that is exactly what it is. That and the end quote is basically, so expect from God. Never expect from man, expect from God. And that is my belief. That is the way I think, that is the way I'm wired. That is why I do not like taking gifts from people. Sorry. Because the first thing that comes to my mind is, okay, this person is one day going to make me feel that I owe them, even if they've given me a tiny thing. And I don't like owing people anything. Actually, yeah, even if they don't make me feel that, I do not want to owe anybody anything. So I get immensely, nowadays, actually, the older I'm growing, I actually now get immensely angry when people give me things. Yeah. Especially if I feel I cannot give them back somehow, because it puts me in that constant state of agitation and stress that I have to give them back and I have to give something back, and this is a stress I can do without. Although again, this you one would argue goes against Islam, because in Islam the Prophet, peace be upon him, encourages us to give gifts to each other. But see, that's where it is. He says give gifts to each other, so that you may grow a little more fond of each other. There will be a bonding, and you would have some pleasantries. And yeah, but you know what, in my experience, giving things is not a pleasant experience, or at least taking things is not a pleasant experience in my life, in my experience, in the way my mind is wired, the way I think, and which, as I said, I've been proved right constantly, though without fail. It doesn't make me happy. It actually puts me on stress level. Okay, it literally takes me to that level of stress and tension that I can do without. And especially nowadays, with all the financial situation going on, it is getting more and more difficult for people to even give. And originally the whole point of a gift was a token, right? You would just give a token to somebody. It's like, as they say, the feeling counts, right? That was the whole point of a gift. It didn't matter if they gave you something that was just a lollipop. It was the thought that counted, right? But now I'm sorry to say, the thought doesn't count. No, 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 no. I mean, God forbid, if somebody gives you a rubber band, even if you don't have a problem with it, everybody around you is going to say, oh, what? She just gave you a rubber band? Seriously? Like, seriously? What was she thinking giving you just a rubber band? Like, who cares? She wanted to give me a rubber band. She gave me a rubber band. I don't care. What's your problem? But now everybody's going to make her feel small, that she's given me something so small. And then they will think that, I mean, if I had a vulnerable mind, then I could go into a negative mode and start thinking like start getting stressed out about what others are saying, and start getting embarrassed or offended that, okay, so why did she give me a rubber band? Seriously? Is this what she thinks of me? Is this all I deserve? A small rubber band? Seriously? I could get this for free. Get it? So yeah, it's become more and more difficult now to give people gifts. Okay. And I think that I would rather not have this relationship with anybody where I am exchanging gifts. I do, as I said, if you believe in Islam, I do believe in Islam, and I do believe that the Prophet, peace be upon him, is absolutely right. And I'm not even saying that it's wrong, and I'm not saying I will never do it. We do exchange gifts after all. We do give things to people. As I said, I actually like giving things to people. I don't like taking things from people. Although, one would argue again, in Islam, the Prophet, peace be upon him, has actually forbidden us from rejecting gifts. And again, you understand the psychology behind it is because if somebody is giving you something with all his heart and you refuse to take it, you're causing a world of hurt. And remember, in Islam, what is most important? Consideration for others. Consideration for others' feelings. That is the holy grail here. So, yes. So, woe to you if you hurt somebody's feelings by refusing their gifts. You understand? And this is why, even though in Islam, celebrating your birthday is forbidden, it's considered haram because it is actually, it originates from a pagan practice. It's not a secular practice. You see, any secular celebration or cultural celebration is fine, but any celebration that actually has pagan religious roots, as in it has something to do with religion and it is a religious practice, and especially a pagan or Christian or Jewish religious practice, then you cannot do it. So this is essentially a pagan practice and it was a religious practice. And they actually started off by celebrating birthdays of their gods. So yeah, that's why basically celebrating birthdays are not allowed in Islam. It wasn't even allowed in Christianity and Judaism, by the way. This is a recent wave. Yeah, it's a recent wave actually in the era of all monotheism or monotheistic religions. So it's a fairly recent tradition. So yeah, so I mean, but again, as I said, even though celebrating birthdays is haram and all, and initiating saying happy birthday, although obviously you would still want to wish somebody. So again, wish them by saying, may God bless you, may God bless your life, may you have a wonderful day, may you have a blessed day and a blessed life. And that is how we do actually wish, we Muslims, that is how we do wish people on their birthdays. But I mean, and another thing is that initiating a birthday party and then giving gifts and all, that is also not allowed in Islam. But what is even more forbidden is refusing gifts that are given to you on your birthday. So even though you're not celebrating your birthday or, it's forbidden to give gifts and all, but if somebody does give you a gift on your birthday, you must accept it. Because in Islam, you're not allowed to hurt other people's feelings by rejecting gifts. Because as I said, gifts are originally what? Something that is from your heart. It is a token of your feelings, of what you think, of your sincerity towards the other person. And so rejecting it is rejecting that person's sincerity towards you. And then you can promote harsh feelings, basically, But it is true that I still do not like getting gifts. But as I said, I don't refuse them, I don't reject them. But, and very few people, I mean, actually realized, I mean, as in fact, only one person, imagine, not even my family till date, only that one person, that one friend of mine, who, as I said, was amazing at reading micro expressions, only he realized it, that okay, you don't like gifts. And I said, yeah, actually I like giving things, I don't like taking things. When I take things, I get stressed. Okay. I really get stressed. So that is why actually I don't like taking gifts. I love giving because I know that when I give and I forget. I forget, and I will never, ever remind that person, oh, I gave you this thing. So, yeah, but people have a very bad habit of reminding people, and distorting things as well. For example, you have three, four friends together. Um, Oh, yeah, and this also in a way connects to the first part because this thing that recently happened because there was this person I know. This person introduced this new person who came in, who arrived, newly in the neighborhood, to their group of friends in the neighborhood, and they're all very, very old, very, very old group of friends. And so they introduced this new person who was coming to the neighborhood to their friends, and amongst the other things, such as trying to take over the whole group's activities and everything, though this person also has the bad habit of bitching about the same mutual friend that introduced her to everybody. And then also of distorting information. So for example, if maybe it's jealousy, or maybe it's just a negative mind, because some people generally just have negative minds. So they would see that two of the old friends have exchanged, one of the friends has given the mutual friend a gift and refused to take money. But what they do not know is that this mutual friend has given them also something in return. And so they will now talk with another person in the group and say, oh yeah, you know what, like she took from her, and she took also, and then and then luckily this mutual friend was present there, and the other friend was like, yeah, okay, so and this mutual friend is like, yeah, I also gave her something in return. And so the other older friend was like, oh, what did you give? And she told, oh yeah, I gave her this. And she's like, oh wow, so yeah, so that's fine actually. So what is there such a big deal about it? And that's when the mutual friend realized that the new friend tried to make a big deal out of it in her absence, backstabbing her, or should I say backbiting her, bitching about her, like trying to create this negative opinion about it. And I told her very frankly, I'm like, listen, I told you first of all not to introduce her to all your friends, because you've already been bitten by a similar situation before. And at the end of the day, fine, it came out okay, because that person wasn't as poisonous or negative as this person seems to be. And I was like, but still, you need to stop introducing people to your old friends, because people are so filled with insecurities and complexes you don't even know. You don't know what they're going to do. And as I said, it's become a trend or something that people just have to do it. There's always that one person who has to do such a thing. So, and I'm like, another thing is you need to talk to your old friends. Take them aside and talk to them, because you've known each other for what, 30, 40 years. I'm like, take them to the side and tell them what you think about the whole situation, and how you disliked the fact that they thought that it was okay to talk about you behind your back with this new person who you introduced to them, you know? So I've encouraged her to talk. But now another thing is that this this is the kind of scenario which, as I said, is the reason why I do not like taking things from people. Because again, I'm also the kind of person who doesn't like to owe anybody anything. And if somebody's given me something, it pisses me off because now I owe them. So I have to now do something about it, right? This is why I do not have a give and take or exchange gift relationships with any of my friends. And as I said, with the oldest friends of mine, with my really old friends, we never even thought of it this, because we're all like-minded. We never thought of it this way. When there's an occasion, you would give a gift to somebody. When there's an occasion, they will give it to you, and that's how it worked. But when there's somebody who comes and makes it a habit that they will always give you gifts every now and then for no reason whatsoever, that triggers me now. It really triggers me, because as I said, nowadays you're not always in the situation to constantly give back. And it looks rather stupid, doesn't it? Somebody gives you something, and then the next day you're giving them something, and then after 3 days they're giving you something, and then again you're giving them something. It's like you're literally returning things to each other. And I think that also kind of goes in bad form, isn't it? Because it's literally as if you're returning, that you have to return something to them. So, I just put a stop to that. To any such person I know, I put a stop to that. I'm like, seriously, don't do this to me. Don't. Before, I used to be very quiet and I used to just kind of endure. But now I've come to that conclusion that, listen, my brain, my mental peace is most important to me, and I am in no way going to allow anything trigger my mental peace ever again. So even if it's something as little as this, I cannot take this kind of stupid, unnecessary tension anymore, because I've taken enough unnecessary tensions piled on in my life by other people, and I've had enough. So thank you very much. I don't want any of this. So yeah, now I actually have become very, very blunt. And as I said before, people, even who have known me for 30, 40 years, even they wouldn't have guessed this, because I've always been very silent and quiet, and I never tried to. But now I put my foot down and I actually tell people, listen, stop this whole thing. It's like a freaking game where we're just giving, and it's not, it becomes bad form, because now you have to give me something and then I have to give you something, and it's just not. Look, we're friends, keep it casual. It's the heart that matters, it's the thought that matters. And we already know what we think about each other, that we're very good friends and we care about each other and we're sincere towards each other. And that is more than enough. And we don't have to keep on and on wasting money trying to give each other gifts every 3-4 days, and you don't owe me anything seriously. So why the need to even give me anything anyway? Why put yourself in that unnecessary stress? I'm getting secondhand stress, on your behalf. Why are you putting yourself through that stress? So yeah. And also, as I said, because in my life I have had um people, and I've seen people, as I said, especially when I've seen parents in our countries and in Asian countries where they think it's okay to taunt and berate their children. But as you know, I think more and more people are now beginning to think about it, that hey, hang on, this is not even right. First of all, as I said, it's not even allowed in Islam. And secondly, because in Islam God says that you are just tools. I'm the one giving anybody anything. You don't even have the right to tell somebody that you're giving them something, even if you've given birth to them. You've only given birth to them because I used you to put them into this world. If I didn't want you to be their parents, you could die childless. I mean, God has made that very clear in the Quran, isn't it? And He's made that clear many times, that even if I want you, you would have nothing. You would be barren for the rest of your life. You would have nothing. So don't you go around acting as if you produced the child. I mean, I'm the one who created them. And I'm not saying anything. What the frack do you think you're doing? you know so yeah, as we said, when God gives, He never berates, He never reminds. But when man gives even a grain of rice, he will remind you till the end of time, till your death, till you're in your grave, that, oh, I gave you a grain of rice. That is how, um well, that is how small minded, or how mean, or how petty, or how miserly man is, isn't it? We are sort of comparing man's miserness to God's generosity. You know, it's true. God will give us everything, and He will never tell us that I'm giving you this. But even your own parents, they will say, oh, we feed you, we clothe you. And if they no longer feed you and clothe you, because if now you've actually managed to get yourself financially independent enough to feed and clothe yourselves, then they'll say, oh, we have been feeding you. We have been clothing you all these years. We put you through school. Listen, it is true. There's no doubt that there's a lot of hard work that is being put in. But now if you look at the parents today, I'm sorry to say, they can't even claim hard work, because they're not doing jack shit for their kids. And that is why everybody's now complaining about how Generation Alpha doesn't even know how to read. Yeah, you're struggling with Generation Alpha. You should have seen Gen Z. Seriously. We were beginning to wonder what's going to happen to them. Well, thank God that they are probably the last generation to have seen some normalcy in their childhood, so they could somehow be smacked into consciousness. But Generation Alpha, poof. Why? Again, their parents. Their parents are not. That is again my biggest complaint. Parents are completely hands off. Schools are also completely hands off. They're both telling each other, oh, it's your duty, it's your duty. Listen, somebody has to come up and do something, okay? So now the teachers are blaming the parents that the children can't read. The parents are blaming the schools that the children can't read. There you go. Nobody wants to take responsibility. But the fact is that children are cooked, okay? So yeah, what are parents doing nowadays for their kids if they can't even read? Something to think about, right? So yeah, I mean, that's what I'm saying. Parents, it is true that there's a lot of hard work that's been put in, which nowadays parents again cannot claim. But our parents, okay, they could claim. But again, they did what they could do, right? It's not like they went overboard and did something that was completely out of their means for us, right? They stayed within their means and they did whatever they could, right? So, point is, again, a person like me, I would never even want to listen to that. I would never want somebody to tell me, oh, I have given you this and I've done this for you. Because as I said, I am not the kind of person. When I give somebody something, it's no longer my problem. If I've done something for somebody, I don't even remember more. As I said, I've made it a point to remove it, to discard it from my memory, especially if I'm in front of that person, you know? I'm never going to say, oh, you know what, I got you that thing, and I got you that thing, and I got you that thing, and I didn't even take any money from you. You know, I'm not going to say that to somebody. So I find that very cheap. I think it's very cheap. For example, okay, I know that again, parents tend to think that, oh, as I said, this is also another hypocritical factor where you will see parents and siblings will always feel very offended on behalf of one of their family members' generosity towards strangers or friends or other people, but they expect that generosity as their own right, right? And the kind of person that I am, I'm thinking, excuse me, if my friends or anybody else don't have the right to have any expectations from me, then in my book, neither do you, because I don't have any expectations from you, from my own family. I've never had any expectations from friends or family. So if I keep that in mind, nobody has the right to have any expectations from me either, big or small. I find that very hypocritical where people think that, oh, we can have expectations from this person, but nobody else can. So yeah. So if, for example, if your child is generous enough to give something to their friends, without if it's not at your expense, okay? Because yeah, I do agree that it is very easy to be generous at your parents' expense or your family's expense or somebody else's expense. It's very easy to think about opening up a business at somebody else's expense. But I would really acknowledge or appreciate somebody who is generous in his own expense, or who is starting a business in his own expense or from zero, then I would say, yeah, kudos to you. You've actually done something. Similarly, I think it is even I think, I'm sure even in Islam and any other religion that you would see, nobody, I mean, God or prophets or anything, or no religion encourages you to be generous at other people's expense. For example, you want to do charity, do it from your own money. You want to go for example, even in Islam, the very fact that you are not allowed to go for pilgrimage without your own money. You cannot take loans, you cannot take money from somebody else, you cannot use your credit card, in other words, because credit card is essentially a loan. But as I've mentioned this in one of my very old podcasts when I tackled the whole pilgrimage thing, people tend to think that it's okay for them to use their credit card for pilgrimage and everything because they're going to pay into it. No, because it's still a loan. It's essentially a loan. Your credit card, what does it mean? Credit card. It means you're paying back loans, and then you're paying back loans with interest, and that is haram. So you're basically using money that you've loaned on interest to get your parents to go for Hajj and Umrah. No, it's wrong. It's haram. It's not even allowed. There is a reason why Hajj is obligatory only for the rich. Yes, this is an obligation that Islam has placed on the rich. Just like how taxes are placed on the rich, not on the poor. So yeah, pilgrimage, the Hajj pilgrimage, the big pilgrimage, that is an obligation only and only for those who are financially well off, financially highly secure. And so that is their financial sacrifice and physical sacrifice. So they are going to sacrifice their money in order to go all the way there to perform the pilgrimage, which will in itself become a physical hardship or a physical struggle or a sacrifice. And then at the end, you sacrifice an animal too. So you see, it's all sacrifice, sacrifice, sacrifice. You have to own something to sacrifice it. You can't take loans to make a financial sacrifice. Similarly, you can't take money from somebody else to give charity to somebody else. Although I know people tend to do that. They collect donations and they say, oh, let's all come together and put our money together, and that is again fine. But essentially the whole concept of charity is, if you can afford it, from your own money you give charity. Okay, so again, similarly, from your own money, from your own pocket, from your own expense, you should be generous to others. Not from your parents' money, not from your siblings' money, not from your friends' money, not from an investor's money. You understand? It has to be something that is yours. So that is what I always say, that it is very easy to be generous at other people's expense. You know, You need to learn to be generous at your own expense. When you make that money, or when you own that thing, when you know it is 100% yours and you don't owe it to anybody else, and then you are generous towards somebody else at your own expense, then I'm all for it. I would encourage it. But if you want to be generous at somebody else's expense, I'm sorry, that is out of the question. That is absolutely wrong. So, again, if you can afford it, and if it is your own expense, at your own expense, that you're being generous towards a friend or towards somebody, for example, you buy something for somebody, that person wants to pay you, but you think you're too embarrassed to even ask for the money because it's such a nominal amount, it's such a small amount that you feel embarrassed, really. That is how it is normally in our society. That is probably a good thing, but again, also one of the main reasons I don't like taking things from people, because to me it's a bad thing, because as I said, I hate owing people. But this is this thing in our society where you must have noticed, when people come from abroad and they keep on talking about how people don't take their money, how people refuse their money, how people are too generous. Yeah, this is something that is in us. Yes, when we get something for somebody who we like a friend, an acquaintance, somebody who's asked us to find something for them, a family member, a sibling, a parent, a cousin, anybody. I mean, if it's somebody with whom we have very good relations, or with whom we're just, we're okay, we're nice, we're in peace with each other. If that person is, for example, looking for something, they can't find it, and then we normally tend to offer that, oh, you know what, we'll be going to so and so store. If we find that thing, we'll get it for you. And then we find that thing, we come and we give it to them, and then they're like, oh, thank you so much, okay, how much is it? And usually, if it is something that is not considered very expensive, like it could be a few hundred rupees, it can be maybe 1,000, 2,000 rupees, we kind of find it very, very weird and embarrassing and stupid, and kind of shameless of ourselves to ask that, oh yeah, it's like 200 rupees, yeah, oh yeah, it's 10 rupees, yeah, oh it's 1,000 rupees, yeah. And we're like, why? Why? No, excuse me, keep your money, this wasn't even worth that much. Why would I want to take their money? You feel mean, you feel small, and you feel kind of pathetic, okay, and you feel ashamed. I mean, what are you going to tell that person? Oh, yeah, it was 500 rupees, it was 200 rupees, it was 1,000 rupees. Seriously? Yeah, so we tend to kind of wave it away, and we're like, oh, come on, we're not taking your money. And now the other person becomes in, he goes into his form of dilemma where he's thinking, okay, this person was so nice enough to get me this thing, but he's not taking the money. I know it's not that expensive, but I can't just take it like that. What am I? I need to give him something in return. And then that person will then someday, at a very good opportunity, not immediately, as I said, otherwise it becomes sort of bad form where you're literally gifting something for something. But then they'll wait a few days, they'll get you something really nice, usually a little above the value of what it is that you got them. And then they would come and they would say, hey, listen, you know what? I got you this. I really liked it for you, and I think you look fab in it. And they'll give it to you. And you would appreciate it. And then you would say, oh, thanks. And both of you know that, okay, it's done. The stress is off, and the exchange of gifts is completed, in other words, right? So, and you both actually, this is the kind of exchange of gifts, I guess, that you would say that the prophet encouraged. In a way, this I can understand. If when the prophet says exchange gifts with each other, because you'll find more love, more good relationships, more more sincerity for each other. You will get into a much better relationship. It's true. It bonds. Yeah, sorry, the word he used was bonding, right? Exchange gifts as it strengthens your bonds. True. It does, if it's done like this, in such a natural, nice way and all, right? So, yeah. So then when you have somebody coming in between who doesn't even know the whole thing, and they're thinking that, oh, my daughter bought this thing for that person, and she didn't even take the money. Yeah. Did you even bother to ask your daughter that, she most probably got something in return too. It's very bad form, and nobody likes this kind of talk, actually. Nobody likes it when you say that my son or my daughter or my brother or my father or my mother bought this thing. And so again, as I said, that is exactly the reason why I hate taking gifts from people. I'm always scared that somebody's suddenly going to say that, oh, that person gave you this thing. Yeah, guess what? I probably gave them something in return worth double the value. But obviously, I'm not going to say it. And that is where the resentment, the bad taste, that is where it comes, It's not like I'm going to now say, oh, yeah, yeah, your daughter got this for me. And in return, I gave her something too. Who says that? I mean, that is the most chipostry. Yeah, we used to call such people chiposters. Yeah, that is the most cheapest thing that you could say to somebody. And so most people, they just look when you do end up getting such weird ass people who do such things and say such things, then everybody just looks at that person thinking, okay, like, I mean, what is that person supposed to say that, yeah, I gave something to, when you're talking about a third party, then you would say that, yeah, I know that person gave me this thing, I gave that person that thing too. But when a person right out comes in front of you and say, oh, so and so gave this thing to you, then what are you going to say? That, yeah, I gave so and so something too, you know like, it's so weird. It's just weird. And that is why I just do not like this kind of hassle in my life. Because as I said, it may be our culture and it may be our way of life in our society where we tend to always give things to people. We don't tend to take money from them. And then in return, they would look for something nice, equal the value or a little above, give it to us. And, we would appreciate it too. And we feel very nice about each other. And it's all done. So when a third person comes in and tries to do that, it leaves a very bad taste. Similarly, when parents do that to their kids again, or when siblings do that to each other, that, oh, I gave you this and I gave, it leaves such a bad taste in your mouth. Especially when, again, as I said, you're not going to tell them, you're not going to, a person like me, I'm not going to come out and bring a whole long list of the things that I've given that person. So, and my parents are the same, by the way. My parents, my whole family were the same kind, where when, for example, my mother, she's always giving, and that's what, you know she's always giving to other people. And I can, if you're talking about exchange, I can tell you that if you even count the whole exchanges, my mother would still come up on top. She's the kind of person who gives more, you know. So when a friend of hers gives her something, the only reason my mother would allow the friend not to take the money from her is because my mother has already now decided that, okay, she's going to get her something nicer and something lovelier, and she's going to look for a good opportunity and give it to her friend. And generally, also, you will find my mother everywhere whenever people need money, donations, charity, or collecting money for a get together, or a one dish party, or to celebrate friends who've come from Umrah and Hajj. And by the way, all these friends who are always getting all these donations or collection money or anything from my mother, not a single time did any of them, one could argue, not a single time did any of them come and give us anything, for example. My mother did at least two Hajjs, mashallah, and numerous Umrahs. Nobody ever came and gave us gifts or gave. I've done Umrahs as well and Hajj. And the point is that unlike other people, we don't make a whole hullabaloo about the fact that we have done our pilgrimage. Well, in the beginning, the actual pilgrimages that we did, the Hajj and all, we were abroad, and that was abroad. Yes, we were there. Over there, people would automatically title you Haji and Hajia. So my mother was automatically. They started calling her Hajia. They started calling my dad Haji, and even though we were minors, and normally it is said that minors Hajj is not a Hajj. You understand? You have to hit puberty in order for your Hajj to be acknowledged as Hajj. But they would still also call us Hajjiyas too, right? And then, yes, they would give gifts and everything. As I said, that is the norm. You kind of give gifts to the person who comes after doing Hajj and all. You celebrate with them. You give, you pray for them. You pray that God accepts the Hajj and makes it all blessing, blessed and everything. And, yeah. But here, in since we've come to Pakistan, my mother and I and my father, we've done umrahs again. Never anybody in my family or amongst all these friends, nobody would come and put together money to give my mother a party. I mean, I'm just giving an example that this is how it is. If you have to compare, that my mother would be there with everybody celebrating everybody's parties, that somebody's come back from umrah, even if she doesn't even know them. And that's the worst part, actually, is that is one of the reasons I have a problem with these so-called Islamic uh, social gatherings where they say, oh, we'll get together and we'll teach the Quran and we'll teach the Hadith. And more often than not, this is exactly what they're doing. Seriously. Every week you hear, oh, we're having a get together, everybody pull in money. Every week you hear, oh, we're having another get together or a tea party or something, or a one dish, let's pull in money. And then after 2 weeks you hear, oh, we're doing a charity drive, everybody donate. And then after another week, oh, so and so have done umrah and come, and so have done hajj and come, let's pull in money and do a party for them. Like, seriously, they don't even know them. Most of the women who are pulling in the money to have that party for those people who have done their pilgrimage and come, they don't even know them. And yet they're pulling in loads and loads of money so that they can have lavish parties and get lavish gifts for them. And as I said, nobody did that for my mom, but you will find my mom doing that everywhere if one is to compare. But you will never hear my mother say that, oh, you know what, I gave this money for this person, or I went and donated for this person, or I went, no. And that is what I said, with people like us who give more than we take, it becomes even more bitter if you find, for example, a third person who would come and try to say, hey, we gave you this. Yeah, you gave me this, I gave you 10 times more. Should we compare lists? But as I said, we're not the kind of people, as I said, because normally good people don't sit down and remind others that, you know what, we gave you this, and this, But you kind of resent those people who come up to you and act as if they want to remind you, as if you owe them something, but actually they're the ones who owe you. I mean, if you start comparing lists, they're the ones who owe you. So yeah, it leaves a very bad taste. And I always tell my friends and my mother and other people to stay away from such people. Yeah. Stay away from those kind of people who claim to be your friends but are always trying to one up you, or always trying to put you down, or always trying to make you think as if, as if you owe them, or as if you're inferior when they've done jack shit for you and you're the one going around doing stuff for them. So I've actually that's why I don't do anything for people anymore, by the way, because as I said, I'm a kind of person that if I make a rule, I stick to it. I've stopped compromising and bending the rules for other people, even if they're my own family now. I don't do that anymore. And I would suggest people to also refrain from doing too much, because in Islam too, actually, you're not supposed to do too much. You're supposed to do only enough. As the Prophet said, do only enough for others so that they do not think that it is their birthright, and you do not get yourself out of your comfort zone. You understand? It's very important. It is very, very important. And I have realized that it is true. And this is why I've become more and more strict about this now, where I do not cater to people's nonsense anymore. I do not do now too much for people. And I do, in fact, most of the time now, I do not do anything because I think I've done enough. And now I'm actually always telling my mother and my nephews even, or my friends even, or my father even, I'm like, listen, just don't do it. We haven't signed a contract that we have to do it. It's not like we've won the tender, and we're not the contractors here, okay? We haven't taken the take of anybody that, oh, we have to do this, for somebody. don't do it. Do it only if you actually feel like doing it. And listen, if you feel like doing it and you've done it, then don't speak of it. That's another thing I say. I say that even to my parents or my friends or siblings or whoever. I'm like, listen, if you want to do it, you better do it wholeheartedly or don't do it. Because if you're doing it, you better not speak about it. But if you feel you have to speak about it, I'd rather you don't do it. Simple. Just keep it simple, you know. And people do tend to, at one point or the other, remind others that, oh, we did this, we did this, we did this. And I think it's very bad form, very bad form. And as I said, even good people who normally do not remind people, sometimes even they think that they have the right to now remind people. They might get pushed around, or they might suddenly feel something or not. And again, this is why I would again remind you of that this is also where this hadith then comes into into play, where the Prophet, peace be upon him, said, do only enough, only as much as is comfortable, and do not do so much that the other person should think that it's his birthright. I'm paraphrasing this hadith, by the way, please. It's not word for word, but this is generally the whole concept of this hadith, right? So yes, do only if you really want to do it. And this is my own experience, I have done many things for people that I actually never wanted to. It was literally as if I was forced to do it, and so I never felt good about it. I never reminded them that I did anything for them, but you know what, I was never happy doing it for them. And the next time, then I would actually get, if they then make it as I said, if they start thinking as their birthright and they take it for granted that now I always have to do something for them, then I snap. Yes, I do snap. Why? Because I'm not doing it out of my free will, am I? I'm not doing it out of my free will. I'm literally being forced to do it. I don't want to do it. Frack off. So yeah, that is why I always tell the other people around me too, that it's essential that if you're doing something for somebody, do it with all your heart. Do it if you want to. If you feel like you're being forced, if you feel like you don't want to do it, don't do it. It has to come from your heart. Otherwise, it's a sacrifice. Yeah, so if you're doing something because you're being forced to do for somebody, you're sacrificing. Yes, that is a sacrifice. That is not you being generous with anybody, or, you're literally sacrificing for that person, and then you can only expect anything from God and nothing from that person. If you're doing something out of your own free will, then you feel nice about it, and your happy hormones are dancing, so you're okay. You feel fulfilled, in other words. So that's the difference. Actually, that is the difference. It's a very, it may look like a very trivial, but it's a very, very big difference here. It can mess with your mind, it can make your mind, it can mess with your personality, it can make your personality. It's such a huge difference. So yeah, if you ever feel hurt by the fact that you've introduced somebody to your friends and now they've all banded together and suddenly you're left out of everything, you're suddenly out of the loop, you know what? It's good riddance to bad rubbish, because good friends will never do that to you. Also, as I said, you will find them coming back to you at one point when they realize what the new friend has done. Now it's up to you. You can move on and give a hoot about them and enjoy your life, because, as I said, as far as you're concerned, it's good riddance to bad rubbish. You know now where your friends stand. You've seen that no matter how old your friendship is, this is where it stands at this point. So it means you need to move on. Again, as I said, after years, they will definitely come back to you and reach out to you. If you feel like you're going to be okay by then to have them reach out to you and act as if nothing happened, go ahead. Otherwise, move on. Again, just treat them the way they've been treating you, as in, don't look back and don't reply to them when they reach out to you. You're too busy for that, right? Second, if there's a person who's trying to make you feel inferior by saying, by trying to create a sort of a negative narrative around you amongst your friends, then you need to snap back. In the sense that you need, especially if those friends are your old friends, and again, this is this new person in town, yeah, you need to take your friends on the side and tell them that you're not having this shit. You need to tell them in a nice way or in whichever way you like, depending on your age and your friendship. Just tell them, but you have to tell them. You must tell them how you feel and what you think about it, and that considering your friendship, it is absolutely distasteful that they should go behind your back with somebody they barely know, somebody who you introduced to them, and talk about you. If they have anything to say, they should say it to your face. After all, you've known each other for years, for decades even. Why go around this roundabout way, you know? Third, you will find again, mature friends will always ignore the person bitching about you, and they will always stay by your side. They may not say anything to that person bitching about you, but they're not going to leave your side either. You're better off with those friends. After all, especially if it's a large group that you have, right? But you must put them in place. You must put them on the side, take them to the side and talk to them and tell them what you feel about them backbiting those who are indulging in talking about you with this new friend or other friend or whatever, you know. And if you're not comfortable with it and you feel hurt, you need to force them to listen to that. You need to address the issue directly face to face with them, and you need to tell them that whatever they need to say to you, they should say to your face, again, as I said, because seeing as your old friends, they owe that much to you, right? Because I have noticed that people, when they have to open their mouth and yap, they don't care. They don't care. And people like us who were taught differently, we were, you know, those of us who were brought up in a different way, we were brought up to never talk smack or to never be rude to somebody or to never indulge in an argument or fight, you know, or do these pathetic things that people do. But again, as I said, a time comes when you need to stand up and you need to snap at that person. You need to give that person a shut up call. So we spend our lives just looking at those people when they act their, you know, in their chipostery manner, you know, when they become these chichore log. And we need to learn to give them that shut up call. Yeah. We spend our lives just looking at their faces, but we need to stop doing that because, as I said, I've noticed that in our society, more and more people seem to think it's okay for them to just open their mouth and say whatever it is that they have to say to us, regardless, you know. So in that case, you need to answer back. You need to clap back, okay? Yeah, you must. You must put them in their place. You must tell them that there are boundaries and they must stay within theirs. So I hope that these two prove to be valuable lessons, you know, and also give some sense of comfort and peace, especially mental peace, to people who are going through this. Because, as I said, more and more people are going through this. Because you have now people with no manners whatsoever. And then you have people who still have that old school manners that are following them, haunting them to their graves. And for the life of them, despite the fact that they know how to answer, but they're not trained to snap back. So they just look at those people, you know, as in like, what did they? And it's so easy to open your mouth and hurt others. In Islam, you're not even supposed to listen to that bullshit, by the way. Again, this is where Islam comes, where God says that, and the Prophet, peace be upon him, also explains that if somebody says something to you, you have the right to answer back. Okay? It is better to keep quiet if that person is just incessantly trying to mouth off. That is something else. But if somebody tells you something, you have the right to correct them. You have the right to give them a shut up call. And similarly, if somebody does something to you, you have the right to do the exact same thing back to them. Okay? Justice first, remember? Justice first, mercy second. So, yeah, you have the right to clap back. Okay? In fact, you're encouraged, because you're in Islam, we're encouraged to put people in their place, to put them in their boundaries, so that things shouldn't get out of hand. You know, it's always better to put people in their place and give them that shut up call on a timely, in a timely fashion, actually, and you know, so that they know that this is their limit and they're not allowed to cross it. Yeah. So you have a threshold You need to tell people what your threshold is, and you need to tell them what their threshold is in your life and how to keep it. So don't ever allow people to come and say weird ass stuff to you, or try to belittle you, or try to demean you, or try to say that, or try to make you think as if you owe them something, because you know very well that you owe them nothing. That if they've given you one thing, you've probably given them 10, right? And again, that is why, as I said, I made it a principle of mine never to take anything from anybody, period. Not even my own parents. Yes, seriously. I do not even take anything from my parents if I can help it, because I do not want to listen to any shit. Again, it's not like parents are going to say anything to you, but as I said, it's in our culture. Parents at one point will say something to you. And as I said, to me, my self respect and my dignity does not allow me to listen to crap from anybody. So I do not take crap from anybody, and I do not take anything from anybody. So they can't give me any crap. And so when they do try to give me any crap, then I can actually give them the biggest shut up call ever with just one thing. What the frack have you ever given me? And they know they've given me shit. So that's how I made my life easier, to be honest. And I hope it will help you people get some peace and make your lives easier. This is me signing out. Khuda Hafiz.